Have you ever had one of those rare, peaceful mornings where everything just feels perfect? The coffee's just right, the birds are singing, and the air carries a sense of calm. That was my morning, right up until a silver Jeep crashed through my brick wall like it was made of cardboard. It was Saturday, around 9:15 a.m. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee in the kitchen when the loudest sound I've ever heard tore through the quiet. A mix of thunder and an explosion shaking the entire house. My heart jumped as I sprinted outside. There it was, the Jeep, half buried in my wall, smoke curling from under the hood. Behind the wheel was a young woman, probably 19 or 20, gripping the steering wheel as she'd just seen a ghost. Pale face, trembling hands. I shouted, "Are you okay?" Before I could process it myself, she yelled back almost defiantly, "That wall shouldn't have been there." I froze. What? It turned out this girl was Emily, the daughter of Karen, my next-door neighbor. Yes, that Karen, the one who once called the city because she claimed my mailbox was too close to the curb. The same woman who filed complaints about my dog barking too happily. Emily had been attempting to turn into her mother's driveway, but misjudged the angle, hit the gas instead of the brake, and slammed into my wall. Minutes later, Karen herself stormed out in a robe and slippers, phone in hand, already filming. "This wall shouldn't be this close to the street," she yelled. "You're liable for this damage." I blinked. Liable? Her daughter had just destroyed my property. But Karen wasn't slowing down. She urged Emily to capture everything. My house, my yard, even me. She ranted about unsafe structures, poor visibility, and how she'd warned the neighborhood for months. By the time the police arrived, Karen had already spun a story about my wall being illegal too close to the road, and how her daughter could have died from my negligence. The officer took statements, inspected the scene, and gave me a sympathetic look that said, "This is only the beginning." Karen's fury wasn't over, not by a long shot. A week later, I thought things were calming. The insurance adjuster had come. The police report was filed. Surely this was one of those wild neighborhood stories we'd laugh about someday. Then came the letter, a thick, cream-colored envelope with my name typed boldly across the front. Inside, a notice of legal action. Emily was suing me for property damage, emotional distress, and get this unsafe residential design. I almost laughed. Then I saw the amount, $25,000. My jaw hit the floor. According to the complaint, my poorly constructed, dangerously positioned wall posed a foreseeable hazard to drivers entering adjacent properties. The document claimed it violated multiple zoning regulations. That's when it hit me. Karen wasn't bluffing. She was deadly serious. I called my lawyer, Martin, a calm, level-headed man who had helped me with a property dispute years ago. I explained everything. He asked for photos, police reports, and my wall permits. Luckily, had everything organized in a neat folder. When Martin reviewed them, he smirked. "You're fine," he said. The wall was inspected, approved, and permitted by the city. Karen's about to waste a lot of money. Still, the thought of court made my stomach twist. Karen, on the other hand, was confident. She strutted around the neighborhood, claiming everyone needed to see justice done. She posted on the neighborhood Facebook group calling my wall a death trap. Comments were wild. Some neighbors rolled their eyes, others hesitated to believe her. One even wrote, "Wow, I always wondered if that wall was legal." Karen soaked up the attention like sunshine. Every morning she waved at me with that smug grin, while Emily drove by in a rental, glaring like I personally ruined her life. The court date was set for 3 weeks later. I gathered every piece of evidence I had, photos of the crash, the approved permit, even security footage showing Emily hitting the gas instead of the brake. I was nervous, but Martin assured me, "Let the facts speak." If only Karen had known, those facts would have demolished her case. The day of the hearing felt surreal, like I'd been thrust into a movie I never agreed to star in. The courthouse was tiny. Everyone seemed to know everyone. Across the hall, I spotted Karen and Emily. Karen looked ready for a red carpet, oversized sunglasses, a pearl necklace, and that smug smirk she always wore when she thought she was winning. Emily slouched, nervously scrolling her phone, whispering to her mom every few seconds. Their young lawyer, barely out of law school, flipped through his folder like he'd drawn the short straw. Martin arrived and gave me a reassuring nod. "Don't worry, we've got this," he said. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and zero tolerance for nonsense, called us in. Karen immediately leapt into action. When the judge asked for opening statements, she interrupted her lawyer to clarify. She launched into a dramatic speech. how traumatized Emily was, how my wall nearly sat on the road, how any reasonable homeowner would know it was dangerous. Her lawyer tugged at her sleeve, but she waved him off, gesturing at photos, sighing loudly whenever someone disagreed. When it was Martin's turn, he stood calm as ever. "Your Honor," he said, "the defendant's wall is legal, permitted, and structurally sound. This is not a zoning issue. It's a driver error issue." Then he played the security footage. The courtroom went silent. There it was, Emily's Jeep speeding toward my house, hesitating, then flooring it instead of braking. The impact was undeniable. The judge leaned forward. "That's your daughter?" she asked Karen. Karen's face drained of color. "Well, the footage doesn't show the full situation," she stammered. "There was glare on the windshield." Martin smiled faintly. "We can slow it down, Your Honor." The footage was slowed. Frame by frame, Emily's Jeep was clear. She looked straight at the road, no glare, no distractions, just a bad choice. The courtroom's energy shifted instantly. Karen's lawyer slumped in his chair, and even Emily seemed like she wished the floor would open up beneath her. Yet Karen wasn't finished. She still had one last card, a desperate move that would end up being her biggest error. Karen rose again. Her lawyer groaned under his breath. "Your Honor," she declared, "that video is misleading. The defendant edited it to make my daughter look reckless." The judge raised a single eyebrow. "Are you accusing the defendant of tampering with evidence?" Karen blinked, realizing the weight of her claim. "Well, I'm not saying he tampered with it. I just think it's suspicious." Martin calmly opened his folder. "Your Honor, this footage comes directly from the defendant's home security system and was verified by the responding officer. We also have the officer's statement confirming its authenticity." The judge nodded. "Noted." Then she turned her sharp gaze to Karen. "Do you have any proof that this video was altered?" Karen fumbled in her purse and pulled out a printed screenshot she'd saved from the neighborhood Facebook group, a blurry shot of the Jeep halfway through the wall. "This one looks different," she said, puffing up with false confidence. The judge leaned back, clearly unimpressed. "That's a Facebook post." Laughter rippled through the courtroom. Even the bailiff coughed to hide a grin. Karen's lawyer finally stood, whispering something urgent, probably along the lines of, "Please stop talking." But it was too late. The judge had heard enough. Based on the evidence, the judge declared, the court finds the defendant is not liable for damages. The wall in question was legally constructed, and the plaintiff's damages resulted from her own negligence while operating a vehicle. Karen froze. Emily lowered her gaze. Martin gave me a subtle nod. We had won. The judge wasn't done. Furthermore, she continued, given the baseless nature of this claim, the court orders the plaintiff to reimburse the defendant for legal costs. A hush fell over the room. Karen's jaw literally dropped. "Excuse me, we have to pay him?" she sputtered. The judge didn't even look up. "That's correct. Perhaps next time you'll take responsibility instead of shifting blame." And just like that, it was over. Outside the courthouse, Karen stormed past me silently, sunglasses on, clutching her purse like it owed her money. Emily trailed behind, quiet as a shadow. For the first time since the crash, Karen wasn't yelling. That silence, it was the sweetest sound I'd ever experienced. A week later, a check arrived in the mail for my legal fees. The wall got repaired, bricks freshly reset, and mortar clean and precise. I stood there, hands on my hips, looking at the rebuilt wall. I couldn't help but grin. Some walls aren't just stone, they're boundaries. Boundaries that people like Karen will never understand. And honestly, that thought made the whole ordeal worth it. If you enjoyed this wild story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life drama, and drop a comment telling me how you would have handled Karen and Emily.